Certain of receiving a warm welcome, photographer Chris Washington graciously consents to meet Rose Armitage white girlfriend's family. They strike a deal while driving to the family's estate in the country and report the incident. Rose steps in to stop the interaction from being recorded when the white police officer asks for Chris's identification despite the fact that he was not driving. Rose's brother Jeremy and her white parents, neurosurgeon Dean and psychiatrist, hypnotherapist Missy, make uncomfortable remarks about black people in the home. Chris observes that the black employees at the estate exhibit strange levels of compliance. Chris, unable to sleep, walks outside to smoke and discovers Walter, the groundskeeper, fleeing into the woods. When Missy sees Chris coming back, she convinces him into getting help for his smoking addiction via hypnosis. He describes, in a trance, how his mother died in a hit and run when he was a toddler, and he feels bad about it. What Missy refers to as the sunken place is where he sinks. Though he thinks he experienced a nightmare, he discovers that smokes now make him feel repulsed. His battery runs out when Georgina, the black housekeeper, unplugs his phone. Hundreds of well-to-do white folks show up for the yearly gathering of the Armitages. They show interest in Chris, praising his body or expressing their appreciation for other black celebrities like Tiger Woods. Chris encounters Logan King, a married, much older white woman's husband, and a black guy with peculiar behavior of his own. Chris talks to his buddy, Little Rel Howery, a black TSA officer, about the hypnosis and the peculiar conduct at the residence. Logan becomes agitated and begs Chris to get out when the camera flashes on Logan as he tries to sneak a shot of him. According to Dean, Logan had an epileptic episode. Outside the home, Dean arranges an auction with a photo of Chris on display, and Chris convinces Rose to go with him. After Chris emails Rod Logan's picture, Rod identifies Logan as Andre, a missing person. Chris discovers pictures of Rose from her previous relationships with black people, such as Walter and Georgina, when she is preparing to depart. He gets hypnotized by Missy when Rose and the family block his way out. Rod goes to the police believing there is a plot, but he is laughed at. Tied to a chair, Chris wakes. Richard Hurd plays Rose's grandpa Roman in a video presentation that describes how the family transfers white people's brains into black bodies, leaving the host's consciousness in the sunken place, where it watches helplessly. Jim Hudson, a blind art collector played by Stephen Root, informs Chris that he needs his body in order to see, as well as Chris's creative abilities. Chris blocks the hypnotic orders by plugging his ears with stuffing taken out of the chair. Jeremy arrives to pick him up for surgery, and Chris bludgeons him, impales Dean with the white-tailed deer mount antlers, and stabs Missy. Chris assaults Georgina after stealing a vehicle and taking off. He lifts Georgina into the vehicle, recalling the death of his own mother, but she is taken over by Rose's grandmother Marianne. She assaults him, causing him to crash and kill her. Romans possess Walter and Rose catch up with him. With his phone flash, Chris wakes the actual Walter, who then grabs Rose's weapon, shoots her, and ends his own life. Chris catches Rose in a chokehold but is unable to murder her. Rod pulls up in a TSA vehicle, and he and Chris take off. Important points and takeaways from Get Out. 1. Racism and racial exploitation theme. The movie exposes the subtle, contemporary forms of racism that persist in the backgrounds of those who identify as liberal or progressive. Lesson: Peele's depiction of the Armitage family, who present themselves as well-meaning liberals, illustrates how people may engage in detrimental racial exploitation even if they reject overt racism. The movie exposes the danger of fetishizing black culture and bodies because it dehumanizes people and makes them into commodities. Important example: the Armitage's interest in Chris isn't based on their perception of him as an equal. Rather, they regard him as a desire object that they can utilize to their advantage. 2. Cultural appropriation and objectification theme. The Armitages and their friends' physical attributes such as their strength, athleticism, and perceived exoticism are a prime example of cultural appropriation. Lesson: the movie emphasizes how black people's bodies and culture are often taken or adored without considering the people who own them, which dehumanizes them. Get Out demonstrates that understanding a culture is not the same as objectifying or taking advantage of it. Key example: the coagula process exposed the Armitage family's actual objectives, which amount to the ultimate form of appropriation, taking control of black bodies to utilize for personal gain. 3. The dangers of colorblindness theme. The Armitages epitomize colorblind racism, which ignores the actual realities of racism that people of color endure by claiming not to recognize race. Lesson: because it ignores structural problems in individual experiences, the movie illustrates that denying or downplaying racial concerns may be just as detrimental as overt racism. Society can no longer pretend to be colorblind when it comes to addressing racism. It must be acknowledged. Important example: Dean Armitage's statement, "I would have voted for Obama for a third term," illustrates how some people ignore more serious racial concerns in favor of flimsy progressive symbols. 4. Microaggressions. The movie Get Out highlights the many microaggressions that black people face, which often take the shape of innocuous remarks or presumptions based on stereotypes. Lesson: covered below, but no less detrimental than overt racism are microaggressions, those imperceptible, often inadvertent acts of discrimination. The movie demonstrates how these little deeds add up to have a significant psychological effect. Important example, during the celebration, people talk about Chris's body type, black culture, and how black people are in fashion, despite being presented as praises. These comments expose underlying racial prejudices. 5. Loss of identity theme. The movie also explores the terror of losing one's identity, represented as the sunken place, where black victims' bodies are controlled by others but their consciousness is repressed. Lesson. The metaphor of the sunken place illustrates how systematic racism muffles and silences black people's voices, imprisoning them in a condition of awareness but helplessness. The movie explores the psychological effects of marginalization and the anxiety associated with losing one's identity. Key example, Chris's descent into the sunken place while under hypnosis is a visceral depiction of oppression and powerlessness, demonstrating how racism can rob people of their agency. 6. Fear of assimilation theme. Get Out tackles the fear of assimilation, which is the feeling that people of color may have when they are forced to fit in with a mostly white culture and lose sight of who they are. Lesson. The movie questions the idea that in order to live, one must conform to white standards or settings. The internal struggle of preserving one's individuality in a society that may not completely appreciate or comprehend it is reflected in Chris's experience. Key example, Chris's increasing unease in the Armitage's home, and the strange conduct of the assimilated black staff are reflections of this topic. 7. The allure of liberal hypocrisy theme. The movie exposes the hypocrisy of white liberalism, which often poses as an advocate for equality while really feeding institutional injustices and racial prejudices. Lesson. Peele cautions against the role that performative allyship and liberalism may have in perpetuating racial injustice in the absence of real action or awareness of racial concerns. Acknowledging one's privilege and confronting ingrained oppressive systems are necessary for true allyship. Key example, the Armitages are a perfect example of how institutional racism may masquerade as liberal ideology because, despite their apparently progressive demeanor, they are harboring genuinely racist and murderous objectives. 8. The power of awareness and resistance theme. Chris's trip serves as a metaphor for the significance of learning about the oppressive and controlling systems that people are a part of and developing strategies for resistance and escape. Lesson. One of the most important things to learn is the importance of identifying oppression or manipulation and having the fortitude to stand up for yourself, especially in the face of apparently insurmountable circumstances. Crucial example, Chris's capacity to identify threats, fend off the Armitage's manipulation, and finally rebel against them represents empowerment in the face of injustice. In conclusion, Get Out used horror to examine difficult societal themes, notably those pertaining to race in America. It criticizes the perils of complacency in a post-racial society, subtle kinds of racism, and the dehumanization of black people. Because of its themes, which stress the need of awareness, addressing prejudice, and achieving true equality, the movie serves as both a potent thriller and a reflection on modern societal dynamics. Thank you for visiting iMovie Recap Plus Studios, your one-stop shop for quick, entertaining, and highly detailed movie reviews. We have everything you need to relive your favorite moments or catch up on a blockbuster smash that you missed. We unpack all the plot twists and turns, from action-packed adventures to mind-bending thrillers, so you can quickly catch up on the newest movies. So grab a snack, settle down, and remember to subscribe for your next taste of cinematic recaps. Hey guys, if you like this video, please subscribe and like buttons, and don't forget to leave a comment below. Please share your ideas and suggestions for future content with me. Your encouragement is much appreciated and helps the channel expand.